I'm trying to warm up because it's cold in the Patagonia, the Andes. That's what that is over there. This is Lake, it's Bariloche, and that's a glacial river that I just got out of. So what I'd like to talk about today is nature lessons. How do we get the voices of nature? And there's one thing we need to do when we go outside and we would like to receive lessons from nature or receive a voice or receive information or inspiration. The first thing we need to do is clear the mental chatter. So I'll give you 2 exercises right now to clear the mental chatter. And if it feels like my voice is a little off, it's because I'm shivering. I'm shivering from the inside. Someone's saying hi from Japan. Where are you guys coming from? I'm coming from Argentina right now. We're almost to the South Pole. We might even go I think it's another 3 hours south to Perito Moreno, which is a glacier. It's not quite glacier here, but these are glacial waters. All right. So the first exercise is to clear mental chatter. So if you're having trouble even meditating, or if you go outside and you're not really seeing anything when you go outside, because some people go outside and this is like a whole encyclopedia. This is a whole lesson. This is a whole school. Before schools, there was this. This is this is where the wisdom came from. So to turn off the mental chatter, the first thing that we can do, it's really easy. I just made a reel about this actually, is take 3 breaths like you're blowing out a candle, super, super hard. So it'll look like this. And that just clears the mind. It takes the body from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And the thoughts follow the breath. And when you clear the breath, you clear the thoughts. So that's the first thing to stop the mental chatter. The next thing is to get rid of brain fog. So you can start with your finger on your nose and then put your eyes. So you're actually going to cross your eyes. Jeez, I'm cold. You're going to cross your eyes to look at your finger, and that alone stimulates your pineal gland. Coming off your eyeball are 2 cords. One's going to your occipital lobe, which is processing vision, which is the visual light spectrum. And there's another cord that goes parasympathetic, or it goes why can't I think about this? It's not para, it's pituitary, pineal gland. What's the other thing called? Anyways, it goes through 3 glands, ending in the pineal gland. Parathyroid. Is that right? No. I'm going to give myself 3 more seconds to think about this. All I can think about is how cold I am right now. I can't think about it. All right. So when you cross your eyes, the cord that goes basically to the gland I can't think of right now, pituitary, pineal gland, that gets activated. So crossing your eyes is actually one of those things that you actually should do. And in meditative practices, looking at the tip of your nose is a very common thing to do, which is crossing your eyes. And you can do that even with your eyes 1/10 open or completely shut. So a lot of times when you're taught to meditate, it's looking up, right? So there's different ways that we can signal our eyes to make different impacts with our psyche. So one of those is up, pointing at the third eye, and that's also pulling on that cord in another direction. And then another way is going down, so in the opposite direction. and they do different things. Makes sense, right? So one way to get rid of brain fog, which I need right now, is start here and then follow it out. Geez, that really works. And then come back in. And you just do that 4 or 5 times, and that focuses, it just brings you into focus. All right. Hopefully you guys were doing that. Someone else is saying humming. Yes. Humming stimulates the vagus nerve. Pituitary, no, that's I mentioned pituitary. I think it's hypothalamus is what I was thinking of. Someone's saying, "Can I join?" You're on here. All right. So those 2 exercises, good for the brain. When you come outside and you're looking for wisdom, it's good to do something like that to get you into yourself, outside of the beta brainwave frequency. We were thinking about bills. We were thinking about what you have to do. We were thinking about a reel you have to make while you're out into nature. If you get rid of all of that and do a practice, even just humming as somebody suggested, or even just thinking about your breath, or another practice to immerse yourself in nature, because really what we need to do is get our frequency to the frequency of nature in order for us to hear nature. And so start to open up your senses. So when you're taking steps, start to think about more than just feeling the ground. Think about tasting the ground. Think about receiving the ground. And you can start with your feet. So if you're walking, I can feel the grass on the soles of my feet. And I can feel how it's wet. And I can feel how it's cold. And all of that's feeling. I can feel how the topography changes. You guys can see this is a lot of like bringing myself in tune with the ground. And everything that I've mentioned so far is superficial. Superficial meaning like it's just feeling. And then so if I start to ask myself, or not feeling, we don't have words to talk about the spectrum of feeling. So when I mean feeling, I mean like how it feels to touch. But now when I talk about feeling, start thinking about like emotion. Like what is the emotion of the earth that I'm walking on? How does it feel emotionally? What is it thinking? And when you start to do that, when you start to go beyond like, oh, I can feel the grass pricking at my skin, it feels hard, it feels soft to me. That's great. But when you start thinking about how does the earth feel? How does the earth feel me? So start tuning into the emotion and the thoughts of the earth. That's when you start to open up. It starts to like open up this channel where you're able to receive communication and messages. And so that's just another practice that you can use. And when you start to do that, you might get a message, you might get a ping, or something might pop up. Maybe like you see a flower or a leaf that's extra bright, or you see a tree that is like, it looks more like three-dimensional, like almost like there's another dimension, like it's popping out of the forest. And then if you just follow that, and once again, you're not thinking about bills, you're not thinking about what you have to do tonight, you're now in tune with the realness of life, because the bills are not why we're here. They're just not. The bills are imposed on us. And in a certain spectrum, it is why we're here, right? That's the game that we chose to play this time. But there's more than that. So to open up to another dimension, these are the practices that you can use. These are the practices that I've used. Because I used to hear stories, or I used to listen to people talk about going outside and a tree told them the story. The tree told them a story about a forest fire or a big rock that it came up through. And I used to listen to people talk like that, and I would be like, how did they get that message from the tree? And so these are some of the practices that you can use. So I really like that one that I just went over. Just walk on the ground, focus on your feet. You just start focusing superficially at first. The feet feels, or the earth feels hard. I can feel these wood chips. It feels comfortable. It feels not comfortable. And then you start thinking about like what the earth feels while you're walking on it. Or you start to see if you can taste, which is like outside just touch, right? How does the earth taste? And taste is a sense that doesn't make sense logically, but like, can I taste how the earth feels energetically in this spot? So I'll give you some examples. How does this... So what I'm getting here in the Patagonia in Argentina, like the first thing that came to me is like wisdom. But there's something more than that. It's like deep, dark, I'm actually getting some like, I've never gotten that before. Like, how can I explain it? Like, I'll just say the words that are coming to me. I want to say it more artistically or less. I'm getting like war, dark, death, wisdom, but like the wisdom that comes from that. Like the wisdom that comes from struggling. For some reason, that's what I'm getting here. When I was in Ireland, I got like nurturing energy. Sweden was I forget what Sweden was, but like every place has a different feeling. And even just around the same city that you're in, you can start to taste, I use the word taste, what the beach feels like versus the mountains versus your backyard. And that's another, like, just being open to that allows you to weave a story of what that means for you today. It's just like looking at astrology, like as above, so below, as below, so above. So when you get these messages, there's a meaning for today. Like you're in that present moment. And you can ask yourself what that means for you today. And so I could go into that, right? Like I just started getting images of like more like ice crevices, like deep grave type things. like as I was trying to put into words, it was like dark. It was like crevices of like graves. And I'm talking right now, so it's hard for me to go on to that. But if you just follow that thread, it'll weave a story for you. And it's also like picking an oracle card. Like, what does that mean for you today? There's a death card in like almost every deck, right? And we're taught that death is bad and that we should try to avoid it, but that's like the furthest thing from the truth, right? Like death is where all life comes from. Like the earth that all of this is growing out of is made up of things that have died, right? And the earth is where all the wisdom is because of the life forms that came up and had an experience, and then eventually that experience dissolved back into the earth. And now that earth absorbs the experience, the earth is the greater version of us, right? Like we are the selves. Selves. We are the cells of this. And we have our experience, and then we take all of those experiences back into Gaia. And then Gaia, as an organism, as a collective holder of all of our experiences, then births more organisms, and all of that wisdom is evolving into reality as we know it. You see, like that whole thing I've never thought of before. But it got stimulated from, like I literally have never thought about that before. It all just came to me because when I stepped on the ground and I tuned in, I got like images of war and death and crevices and graves. But it wasn't like graves like we know it. It was like animals, and like it was just death. So I started this whole reel talking about like how to receive messages from nature. So it's cool that I just kind of got one, even though I wasn't planning on that, 'cause I'm shivering. All right. So what else? Maybe that's what happened, is there's another lifetime or time. Yes, because time is an illusion. Death of my old stories are one of my favorite things. Thank you for sharing. I'd love to hear a conversation about death one day and how to reframe it. Well, hopefully that helped, that I just did that. Very intuitive feeling energy. Death and renewal and nature. Death's an interesting topic, right? I think about it often. I think about a lot of things often. But when that moment comes, how will we be? One thing that happens that came up a lot when I was looking into ancient cultures and their wisdom is that they practice death. They practice what happens in the moment of death. And there's like this route that different cultures, which I should probably refresh myself on this because it's been over 10 years or so, but different cultures practice different ways that they will to make sure that they go when they die, so that they go the right way, so that their soul doesn't get lost or doesn't get misguided in the death experience, because there's other entities apparently that are battling for our energy, for our soul. And so one of the common things, because a lot of different cultures say different things, but one of the common things is that, so you go up out of your body, and then there's a choice. And there's the choice of like luxury, basically like the heaven scenario. And then there's the choice of like not the heaven scenario. It's like bright light or like your worst fears. And as I'm saying, like it came up in a lot of different cultures that the way that it's suggested that you go is into the dark cave. Go towards the thing that you struggle to go towards, because the light, like it might even be like your ancestors waiting for you. That might be a trick. And I'm saying the word might because I'm trying not to influence you too much, because it's something that I would invite you to look into. Look into what to do after you die. Because that's a thing. Death is not talked about in the West. If you're coming from a Western culture, it's not practiced, but all over the world, they practice it. They practice what to do in the moment of death. And so that when it comes, you are aware, you're conscious. You're not just going through that experience in an unconscious manner, which is like the whole purpose why a lot of us are here right now listening to this, is because we're conscious. We're going through life consciously. We're not just waking up and going to work and working all day and eating and then going home and sleeping. No, we're like aware of this experience. We're aware of the purpose. That's what awakening is. It's becoming aware of what we're doing in, first you do it in waking life, and then you can start learning how to do it in like a sub-waking life, which would be like meditative. And then you can start doing it while you're sleeping. And that's like a lucid dreaming practice where you're now aware in your dreams, which is something that a lot of us aren't naturally doing in a first world civilization. We just go to sleep to rest, because all day we're just on in beta brainwave frequency, and then it's like, release and rest. And that's what sleep is. But you can awaken in your dreams, and you can be aware. And same thing with death. If life hasn't distracted you so much that you haven't thought about what you're going to be doing, or being should be the right word, like how you're going to be in sleep and in death, if life hasn't been such a distraction that you weren't able to practice that, then you will be practiced, you will be aware in the moment of death, in the momentum of death. No matter what, it's going to be an experience. And once you're now aware that you can be aware in death, right? And so now you're like a little bit more aware. And so you're going to have a little bit more of an experience. And if you didn't have this awareness, then you would have a little bit narrower version of that experience, but it would still be your experience. You wouldn't really know the difference. What does that look like, practicing for death? I just kind of went over it, right? So there's like also an there's certain cultures that talk about like how to actually come out of your body, like how to climb out of your body when you die. And as I said, it's been a long time. Can't really recall everything, but I got all that from stepping on the earth. So now it's like, okay, should I look into this more? I often think about the moment of death. Actually thinking about it in advance may ease fear. Right. Practice it. Meditate on it. Meditate on different scenarios. Okay. Just looking at comments. Thank you guys for the comments. All right. So we're talking about connecting with nature. I've given a lot of experiences now. I've given a lot of examples. Let me just see if I can ask. Hold on, my tripod's broke. Let me see if I can ask the earth if it would like to share anything on how to connect with it. Okay, so what it just told me was to listen, actually open up your ears. So just like I started with the feet, when you start using the feet, and then so you can also do the same thing with your ears. And normally when we're listening with our ears, we're listening for words. So here's how you can open up your ears. So right now, start to focus on a noise. Like the main noise that you're listening to is probably my voice right now. But what else is there? What else is in the background? And if you go outside, this goes on infinitely. See, when you come inside, it gets narrower, right? There's less things, like you're walled off. When you go outside, it goes on infinitely. Like first you might hear, there's so much right now. Like I hear birds, I hear the water back there, I hear like all sorts of insects, I hear traffic way off in the background, I hear wind, I hear leaves fluttering, I just heard a duck or something. And when you start to just widen that perspective, it starts to weave a story. And then that might come into a voice as well. But what you're doing is you're enabling yourself to be at the frequency of this. You're broadening your focus so that you're outside of yourself. You're no longer here. And you're more here when you start to listen more. So even if you're indoors right now, if you just open your window, even if you're in the city, it's okay. The city has lessons as well. And especially if you're in the city, it's amazing. You can hear the people chattering on the sidewalk. You can hear the buses, they make those certain sounds. You hear the buses, you hear sirens way, way, way in the background. You hear people yelling and the wind. You might hear a helicopter, a bird, definitely a siren if you're in a city. And that's all a story. That's all wisdom. That's all collective human. Because even though we feel like this is nature, the city is also nature at a certain degree. So using your ears opens you up to wisdom of this. And is there wisdom indoors where we spend most of our time? Yes, but we already get that. We get it through our computer. We get it through our books. We get it through the conversations that we're having outside. This is something more. And it's beautiful, and it's us. And it's something that I know that a lot of people crave on how to do. How do I connect with nature? Because the start is going on a hike, right? You're like, I'm going on a hike, or I'm walking my dog, or I'm taking a walk, or I'm exercising, I'm running in the forest. And that's all still doing it for the purpose that's oriented towards our survival. It's oriented towards goals that we have to survive in our culture. What I'm speaking of now is beyond that. It's how do we get wisdom that's beyond that, and then we can take it back into our culture, our life, our everyday, and we can incorporate that into it. And then that gives us inspiration. It's like inspiring, which is to intake spirit, inspire. That's the etymology of spirit, means breath. So we're inspiring the lessons from nature. All right, so somebody else is commenting. Thank you for this comment. And you guys definitely share what you do below, and I'll read it out loud so we can all gather collective intelligence here. You can also zoom yourself out or hover over any place in the world and use your senses to experience any location. Yes. Just do it. Don't worry about if it's possible or not. Just like we wake up every single day and take a step. There's entities that do not have bodies, that are not so easily able to do that, but we do that because this is the vibration that we're resonating in. We're resonating in this physical reality. So physically, our senses are normally trapped, where we feel like we can only sense where the physical body is. There's other states of being where we're not physical, like dreaming, or like death, or like meditating. And so we can travel where the physical body is not. And there's other entities that's just natural for them to do. And we can practice it so that it's easier for us to do it as well. I host long-distance skateboarding events to raise awareness for mental health and grow the community of skaters, says Mark Harris Media. All right. This is so beautiful. The intention underlying our action matters so very much. Imagination is key for manifestation. Yes, I'd like to talk. Pisces season is so spot on for this conversation. 3D construct, but we can almost go inward, experience more. I love meditation, visualizations. All right. So, imagination is key for visualization, I think somebody said. The thing is with imagination is that we're taught that that's fake, that it's a place that is not real. And the way that I think about the imagination, right? Because if you break down the word imagination, we have image nation. I think about the image nation as the source for physical reality. It's the non-physical that comes before the physical. And everything that we create is imagined first. And even non-human things like a rock or a leaf, this was imagined. Maybe the translation of that is a different, like a leaf was imagined by the tree, or the morphic field is another way that's like the map. Or you can say God imagined the leaf before the tree even existed, right? Speaking from a linear time standpoint. And if we're tapping into the imagination, we can form and create reality a lot easier than trying to rearrange physical reality as it is now. Because physical reality as it is now has already manifested. It's already materialized. Somebody already imagined it and it became material. And so what a lot of us are trying to do is rearrange other people's manifestations, when it's more natural, we're more capable. You can even say it's easier for us to work in the imaginatory realm, because that is unmaterialized, and we have ultimate freedom there to imagine. There's nothing hindering us besides our own psyche, but we have everything's available to us to imagine and create, and then we can materialize that. There's less restrictions to work in the imaginatory realm than there is in the physical realm, because this has already been materialized. So rather than trying to rearrange other people's imaginations, imagine yourself. And a lot of times that's difficult to do, and that's where the game is. That's where the work is. So imagination is not some fake thing. It's something that we all have. That's our creation origin. I am nature. So Denise is saying, I am nature is the mantra I repeat to myself to help me connect to nature. So she just goes outside and says, I am nature, I am nature. Yeah, definitely. We are nature. Nature isn't a place. It is a state that we are. Imagination is manifestation. Let that sink in. Imagination, mind-blowing. Believe it before we see it. Imagine it, yes. Imagine is visualization. And so I thought about imagination a lot because I used to ask people to imagine things. If I'm speaking on stage and I'm saying, all right, guys, we're going to be working with this thing called imagination. And so beyond imagination, what's the next step beyond imagination to help us with imagination, right? Because it's like, okay, I can imagine, but the next step is embodiment. So believing your imaginations is embodying them. So you no longer have to believe them because you have you've embodied what you're imagining. And so if we can think about that as a step, first we imagine, then we embody, that allows us to then realize the steps. Imagine, embody, create, manifest, which is bringing it into material form. Let me step over here. All right, guys. I feel like I've given I've had testimonials from, all right, guys. I feel like it's interesting. Do you think that's why visionaries are often considered crazy during their own lifetime? Says the Erica America. Yes, I think that anyone who's doing a massive level of creation is massively destructing other people's creations, right? And the status quo is like the current reality is always trying to hold on to the current reality. And even within your own life, if you're imagining different things, a different version of reality, that means that your current reality all must detach from you. You must detach from everything in your current reality if you want something else. In order for you to be somebody else, you need to be somebody else. And so even within our current self, when we start to manifest a different version of us, there's a lot of cutting ties and things that burn down in that process. And so if you're doing that at a broader scale with like a whole industry of people, that whole industry is going to fight and shun and try to destroy you and take you down because you're moving the industry towards a new way. And they're struggling, they're getting left behind, they're essentially becoming extinct, and they're exuding their life force to make themselves known one last time. And a lot of times the person that's doing that lives their entire life in that mode, and it's the cost of their life of progressing forward towards their imagination, realizing what they're imagining into physical form. Sometimes it takes more than their life to do it. So in their physical lifetime, all they experience is suffering. Like somebody like Van Gogh, for instance. Vincent van Gogh. We all know this person. We know this name. We know his art. But he lived his entire life poor, virgin, and he died in an insane asylum. Did you guys know that? Vincent van Gogh. Poor, didn't have any money, never ever experienced love with another person, sex. Actually, the two people that he actually ever even thought he had a chance with were his cousins, and they made fun of him. And then he died in an insane asylum. His brother supported him his entire life, sent him money, and then Vincent van Gogh would write letters back to his brother, Theo, and give him updates of what's going on in his life. And the reason why I know what his life was like is because all of those letters were comprised into a book. And that book's name is Hello, Theo, because he would start off all his letters with Hello, Theo. And then he would say what's going on in his life. His entire life was struggle. He was being made fun of by every single artist. He would go into like a morgue and start dissecting people to start to figure out like how to draw a hand. Like, how does the bones and the skin and all of this come together? Well, he's the freaking weirdo going and chopping up bodies. Did you not think that everyone else legitimately could find reasons to distract this guy and to we call it now to cancel him? Yes, it was very easy to do. And there's always going to be ways that we can do that with people in society. And it might not pay off in your lifetime, but those who know their mission and their purpose are going to keep going because it's true to them. And that's really the types of people that change the earth. If you're on that mission, if you see something that you know is earth shattering, the voices of others aren't going to stop you. The fact that you don't have a lot of money is not going to stop you. The fact that you're uncomfortable is not going to stop you. The fact that you can't find people to love you is not going to stop you, because the mission is that important. And the rest of us on earth will benefit from what you're doing. And trusting that is important, because we're more than just this lifetime. We are a cell of the whole thing. And so if we're doing something that's going to evolve the system, the organism, then that's why we're here. And it's not just a YOLO thing where we're here to experience as much pleasure in this physical body as possible, because this body is part of all of that. And that's the inspiring thing that we can take from these people that gave everything and never got to experience it within their own life. All right, everybody. With that said, I'm out. Thank you for joining. Share this with people. This reel's pretty cool, connecting with nature. The more people that we can get to do that, the broader wisdom that us humans get to be on this planet. And the more aligned we are to ourselves and the wisdom of everything that we are, the greater society will be, the greater our species will be, the greater this planet will evolve, and the quicker that we can get this process of ascension to harmoniously be revealed, because we are already ascended. It's just the vibratory state that we're in to realize it into our experience in the here and now. And I'm at raw_of_earth. If you guys don't know where my personal account is, I'm here every Wednesday at noon Pacific time, but obviously it's not anywhere close to that time right now because I'm on the other side of the planet. So time's a little off this week. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.